In this video, we're going to be looking at the great dragons and other MOCs made by a builder known as Jayfa, also known as Joss Ivanwood. He builds mostly dragons, and let's have a look. Starting from the start, we have this great reindeer dragon. I think there's a lot we can learn from looking at these dragons, particularly the part usage and shaping. All of the dragons have this distinct curve, but at the same time blend in elements of other creatures, such as a reindeer. These parts here are flex tubes that have been cut. Not something that I would do to my own flex tubes, but it looks great there. He also uses these larger sword or wing pieces for the tail. And this colour, which I'm not quite sure what it is, but it looks almost like some sort of purple. It might just be dark bluish grey and the photo's been colour edited. I'm not sure, or might be brown. Moving on, we have this underwater looking dragon, almost reminiscent of a jellyfish or siphonophore. We've got these exposed brains. I believe that there is the part that came with the sorcerer from the Dungeons and Dragons minifigure CMF series. We can see a bunch of these interconnected, almost woven lavender hand pieces, and I think that looks really good and it's a great part usage. There's a lot of hoses, horns, and stringy pieces used in its builds, such as here, hanging off, and I think it looks great. Another notable part usage is the hot air balloon piece, which has been connected to the underside of these tree pieces. As you can see, a lot of not dragon and not underwater pieces have been used to create an underwater dragon, which I think is just great. Next we have this pumpkin dragon. I think the orange and olive green color scheme looks great. And once again we have those distinctive curves that are associated with dragons. He uses a lot of hose pieces and rounded pieces. The pumpkins themselves look great, using orange bananas to fill the gaps between the larger 2x2 curved tube piece. The eye also looks great. It appears though he's cut off a small slice of yellow flex tube and put it inside a stud. Here we've got the bottom of what looks like it could have been a Chima or Ninjago crocodile jaw, and using a lot of unconventional pieces such as the bananas from the chrysanthemum flowers set. We've also got these large leafy Technic pieces that I think came with the orchid set. As you can see, he uses a lot of different pieces from a lot of different sets, meaning that he probably buys these sets and parts them out, which is one of the best ways to bulk up your parts collection. Down at the toes, we have these vine pieces used for feet, and I think it works really well. Moving on, we have a mushroom dragon. This one is perhaps one of my favorites. You should also note that I haven't seen most of these before, so going through these are my first viewing and perhaps your first viewing of these dragons too. We can see the mushroom heads look really good. I don't know what these parts are, but I assume they came from some sort of Ninjago dragon. The eyes are particularly good. I don't know exactly how he pulled that off, but all I know is that it works really well. He uses these horn pieces, what looks like some illegal techniques, and connected to the three necks of this three-headed dragon. The toes also look really good, and the multiple tails really match the forest mushroom aesthetic. We've also got a main log in the center, using a lot more curved pieces and hose pieces with some mushrooms and some sand green pieces to add to the complexity of it. Moving on, we have another great dragon. This one is inspired by a bee, a bumblebee, he says. Well, firstly, the head looks really good with that banana bringing around the shaping of the cheeks, and that red whip piece for the tongue, sausages for the antennas, and a lot of horns for the details, as well as the leaf. We've got that light yellow colour standing out from the rest, and then we've got regularly yellow as well as flame yellowish orange or bright light orange in the body. We're not getting too many of those black and white stripes, but you can really tell it's a bee just because of the colouring and the shaping. I'm not sure about how the feet of a real bee looks, but these horns are a bit creepy. Who knows, perhaps that's what a real bee does look like, or maybe that's simply because it's a dragon. The tail uses more of those hose pieces, and the base of the tail uses an interesting tree piece in yellow. We've got boat paddles at the back and bringing up the body with connected onto hand pieces that run along flex tubes that have been bent around. I'm guessing he starts with a core build and then adds flex tubes, hoses and other things around it. The wings also look really good, and they must have been from another dragon set. This dragon uses colour really well. This is I believe a peacock mantis shrimp inspired dragon. We've got minifigure heads for the eyes, I believe, and a whole lot of technique and bionicle pieces, giving this dragon its unique jagged appearance. The way it flows is really nice. I think he must have used a bunch of clips clipped onto each other and repeating that same section again and again to create that flowing effect. I believe these are the front of cars, and we can see as these long flex tubes extending out from the claws. Here's another photo, and looking at these, it's no wonder this builder has had so much success on the Australian Lego Masters TV show, where I believe he came second in the Grandmasters series. These printed shoulder pieces also look good, and the use of eyes as decorative pieces look good too. We can see how he brings together system, bionicle and technique to create some great Lego MOCs. This one is perhaps one of my favourites. It looks almost like a plant, a lavender plant, until you realise it is a dragon. The leaves look great for the wings, the shaping's terrific, and I'm in awe of how he has so many brown curved pieces for the hoses. Even the fingers look particularly plant-like. This one is possibly one of his best dragons, and even though it appears one of the most simple, it defies what a dragon normally is. He says it is based on the beautiful hanging flowers of a Wisteria plant. Yep, that makes sense. This one is not as much of a dragon as the others. This one is based on a toad, he says. I'm not sure about this turquoise horn piece going out the side. But the rest of the dragon looks great with a lot of olive green and tan. You notice how he keeps his colours quite limited, using only a few main colours and then a few for detailing, like purple, turquoise and gold. Here we've got a dragonfly. along with the build. This is made using a light blue Ninjago sword katana, the One Ring from Lord of the Rings, and some wings from what I think came with a fairy minifigure, as well as a bucket handle for the front arms. You can see how he uses pieces in unconventional ways to create great pieces, as well as this Chinese hat here. Moving on, we've got a sort of vulture dragon. The way he creates these wings is through heavy layering and repeating of this black wing piece. This is the same piece he likes to use in a lot of his builds. The neck and back are made with these, I think they are bionicle pieces, but I don't have any and I'm not too familiar with them. If we move on to looking at his photography, it's great how the build has a dynamic pose filling the scene. Perched on a branch, it simply looks great, and I believe he chooses background colors to complement the colors of the build. Here's a close-up of the face. You can see that curved beak and that lower jaw piece, which must have been taken from a dragon set. This one's also particularly good. It reminds me of a nudibranch. Yes, here, nudibranch or sea slug. It features a lot of these cloth pieces, which he's wrapped around it to give it an organic shape. This builder does like to use his cloth pieces, and I think it works really well, especially with the printed patterns. He complements this using a stickered piece and a printed jaw piece, along with that purple tongue that he's built. The color scheme works really well here, and he even uses some orange brick separators on the back. This dragon reminds me of a sort of insect. It seems to be a slightly smaller scale than the rest, but the way he inverts these wings to create different shapes is really impressive. Oh, this could possibly be a butterfly, the lunar moth, he says. And then he uses these shoulder pieces from Bionicle, etc. to make patterning on the wings. Very nice. He stacks up these eggshell pieces, threading them onto a flex tube to create the tail. I do have a lot of these, so that is a technique I could copy if I was making a dragon. And then he uses pieces like these sword pieces and the whip piece for the tongue, as we've seen before. Terrific stuff. Moving on, while this isn't a dragon, it's another great build. The monster itself is definitely the highlight, especially with that shaping of that mouth and face. If we move on to more of his dragons, we can see more great examples of why this builder is so highly regarded in the Lego community. Here is a small bonsai tree with pink frogs for the leaves. Perhaps this is where the Lego designers got the idea from for putting pink frogs in the bonsai tree set. Who knows? Or perhaps he stole it from them. Here is another dragon, what looks like a chameleon, but he says it's based on a dragon fruit. You can really, once you know it's a dragon fruit, it's quite obvious with the, I believe these are sausages that have been threaded into the 1x2 rounded plates to give that iconic center of a dragon fruit. The eye also looks very fruity and the color palette works really well. Once again, the lower jaw is from a dragon set and the upper jaw is built using a combination of technique, a lot of snot techniques, and bionicle pieces. The tail is also Once again, a lot of these sort of plant pieces threaded onto a flex tube with some nice decoration at the tail. Here's another picture. He really captures the character of this dragon with the stance and that face and head particularly. Well, this isn't a dragon, it's pretty close. This is Godzilla, and the key takeaway here is the shaping of the build. He builds up small sections and then attaches them on to a central frame, creating some really interesting and dynamic shapes that can't be achieved with simply stacking up square bricks. The eye is also a key takeaway. It looks like he's used a small piece of yellow flex tube threaded into a stud, the same technique we saw earlier. This fire breathing effect looks particularly good, but I think that's also because of the lighting in the photograph, where he's digitally brightened this part of the build. And well, this isn't a dragon, this is the last build I'll be showcasing today, and one of my favorites. This is Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda. The head uses two helmets to encapsulate the eyes, with a flex tube threaded through a stud to create the pupils, which are green. The jaw is on an angle using two angled pieces connected together, and a pink flower is in the middle. It looks really good. The shell is also a work of art, with these many sections connected with brackets onto a central frame, likely clipping onto a flex tube that runs behind his neck. Like I said earlier, here we have another cloth piece. This one is from one of Lloyd's dragons from Ninjago, I believe. And the shaping of this build is just so good. You can see here he would have had a flex tube, or maybe two, running through this area, holding in at the side. The way he uses flex tubes, such as in the staff as well, and threading things onto it, makes some really interesting shapes and allows builders to break free of the straight up and down studs of Lego. I think that's a key takeaway and something we can all learn from him. That's all for the video, and I'll see you next time.